think we're almost ready to get the evening started. So we have an absolutely packed house, but would we expect anything less to celebrate Sir Ross Fogelquist's 88th birthday and his 40th anniversary of his knighthood, as he's a member of the Royal Order of the Polar Star, knighted by the King of Sweden 40 years ago. So, yes, that's another round of applause. And now that I see the late ringing dancers in here, let's give them a full round of applause as well. Absolutely wonderful to have you as part of our community, and I know so many friends who have grown up dancing, who now have their kids dancing, and it's such a huge integral part of this amazing Nordic community. So I want to mention, first off, I'll just kind of get this out of the way. So mine is Mountain Hoods. Some of you, or many of you may know me. I was originally born in Sweden, and I came to the US in the 80s, did sort of a dual upbringing, and I made my way from the Midwest, Chicago, to here about 18 years ago. And one of the first things that I did was, let's take one step back. In Chicago, I was heavily invested in the Swedish community. I put together film festivals, I did our Christmas dinners, we did events that we had the front page of the Chicago Tribune entertainment section. We had a lot going on, and I was in the middle of all of it. I started working at Intel here, and my parents said, don't get distracted by all those Swedish things, just focus on your work. So I did, but there was one person I'd heard about. His name was Ross, and he had this amazing house, and he had these amazing midsummer evenings that he would host, and all these other things. And I heard he was kind of an institution among, just as someone who is going to be larger than life, and has just created something that you've never really seen before. And I remember going to my first midsummer potluck over next door in the Fogel backyard. And it was one of those things where I said, this is something we don't even have in Sweden, let alone have I experienced this in the US. It was something that's so genuine and real, in the sense that if you see things that are, this is how they used to do it, you don't get to be a part of it. You get to maybe stand behind a rail and you look over and you say, oh, that's amazing, but you keep walking through, the next person has to go and look. And instead, he is living the real thing, and we are all just get to experience it with him. Is such an absolute honor. So I just want to say, Ross, what you've created and what all of us get to be a part of, just thank you so much for that, because it truly is something special. So I want to mention here, you see there's a shot of akvavits that's sitting at each table, at each standing there, and that is that it look back. And typically, if you look at the program, we see all the way towards the end, we see akvavit toast. That's a long time to be sitting there staring at this little shot box on your table. So we're not going to do it right away, but we might, shift the programming just a little bit to make sure that gets us due time. Because I don't know, for some reason, in Sweden we start the evening with those, but for some reason I noticed a lot of times in America they tend to get squeezed in at the very end, and what's the point of that? So, anyways, so let's see here. We have at each table, at each time, you can see a note card. That note card, has a little Swedish flag on it. That is meant for some, you can write, there's some pens on the table. You can write a note for Ross. You can do an anecdote, a story maybe, something that, personal kind of connection, or just a... No jokes. New jokes, yes. So write new jokes. Yeah, Ross needs some new jokes, because Ross is never short on jokes, but I guess there's a request for new ones. So if you have any of those as well. And what you'd like, but I just want to mention that. And then, let's see here. Yeah, I think those are the main things for the evening. There will be some more, we're pointing to. Yeah. Oh, it's very loud. Yes. Okay, it's very loud. Okay. So hopefully now it's a little bit less. Okay. And my voice tends to be a little loud too. So there will be, at the end of the evening, there will be some cake that will be served, and there will be some drinks at the bar that will all be ready. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to have Gunilla and Ako are going to come up, and they're going to sing the Swedish national anthem. And while they do, be sure to turn your attention towards the back of the room, as you'll see both the Swedish flag coming through and some dignitaries in our presence coming in. So let's have one more round of applause for both a wonderful singing and an absolutely amazing entrance by one person we know very well, Sir Ross Fogelquist. And and I do want to mention the amazing flag carrying by Eric Turin. That was wonderful. But we have one more person who's also a dignitary here. We have the next speaker who will come up. She is the Honorary Consul for Sweden for both Oregon and Washington, Petra Hildeberg. I will say, I don't have too much more to say because I don't have any notes per se, but she is the president CEO, I think, of Hildeberg, the tent maker, worldwide Swedish renowned tent maker that's been used on expeditions in all over the world, including Everest, I'm pretty sure. And she is someone who is an absolute honor to introduce right now, Petra Hildeberg. She will give a little bit more about Ross and
Good evening, everybody. Like Martin said, my name is Petra Hildeberg. I am the Honorary Consul for Sweden to Washington and Oregon, and it's my huge honor to be here today to celebrate Ross. When people talk about Ross, they often mention all the organizations, events, and traditions and communities that he has helped build over the years, and that list is extraordinary. But what makes Ross truly special is not only what he built, it's the spirit behind it. Ross has devoted his life to making sure Swedish culture would not simply be remembered, but to be lived. Because of Ross, generations of people have experienced Swedish traditions not as something distant and historical, but as something warm, welcoming, and alive. Through music, language, celebrations, friendship, and gatherings at Fogelquist. He has created a place where people can feel connected to Sweden, to Scandinavian heritage, and to each other. And Sweden itself has recognized what an extraordinary contribution that was. Like we mentioned before, in 1986, Ross was awarded the Royal Order of the Polar Star, Nordstjärneorden. And he was awarded that as the first degree, which is the highest degree that you can get, by His Majesty Archking Carl XVI Gustav, our current king. The Order of the Polar Star is one of Sweden's oldest and most distinguished royal honors, dating back to the 1700s. Historically, it's been awarded to people whose service brought distinction to Sweden and strengthened Sweden's relationship with the world beyond its borders. It is considered one of the highest honors that the King of Sweden can bestow on someone outside of Sweden itself. It's not something that's given casually. It recognizes a lifetime of meaningful contribution. And the symbol of this order is the North Star, a guiding light. And in many ways, that feels especially fitting for Ross. So for decades, Ross has been the guiding light for the Swedish American community in the Pacific Northwest. He has helped preserve traditions, support organizations, mentor younger generations, and create places where Swedish culture can continue to thrive with pride and joy. The significance of this award is that Sweden officially recognized what so many people here already knew, that Ross Fogelquist became one of Sweden's greatest ambassadors abroad. And this is not through politics or business, but through culture, hospitality, friendship, and community. And the Order of the Polar Star honors people who build bridges between Sweden and the wider world. Few people have done that with more generosity, more dedication, or more heart than Ross. And what is especially remarkable is that Ross accomplished all of this not for recognition, but because he genuinely cares about people and community. And this is why so many of us are here tonight. thank you for what all of this means to all of us. So Ross, your work has created traditions, your leadership has created community, and your friendship has created lasting connections that will continue long into the future. So on behalf of everybody gathered here tonight, thank you, and a big happy birthday.
So I was mentioning the possibly shift in the programming. We might do an Akvi toast right now, I think, just to keep the good, energy flowing. So would you mind coming up here with me? And we'll do a little song. So the song we're going to sing. Me, I do. So what the song we're going to sing is a song called Hielangur, and it says yes, we can get, and it more of a, Jimmy, you want to come up, you can, so we can have a few of them, yeah, we can have fun. So this song is called Hielangur. Some of you maybe have heard it before. It basically translates to the whole thing goes, and it kind of is a way to kick off the evening to say, it even has a part of it that says, if you don't drink the whole, you don't even get the half. So we're going to sing it in Swedish, but we're going to have, hopefully many of you try to sing it in English, quote-unquote, gibberish. So, Hielangur sounds very much so like hell and gore. So, when we sing Hielangur, you sing hell and gore. And then it goes, what that translates to is Chum Hop Father Allen Lake. Very simple. You guys just follow with us, and then we'll kind of sing, and we will raise, and then we'll drink, and then we'll finish off with the final part. So, Hielangur is hell and gore. That's all we're doing. Okay. Off and come up there. Hielangur, Thank you everyone for participating in that Swedish tradition. So now we can go on to, we're going to have a video that we're going to introduce, that Ross, will you be introducing the video here for what we're about to see here? Yes, so if we can come up here and... So Ross will be introducing the video that we're about to see, because it's pretty special.
This was taken 40 years ago. Can't believe it. The investiture of knighthood was performed at the Waverly Country Club, a very beautiful historical building, in May. It was a great honor that the Consul General, Margaret Haggard, came forth to present the award. Many of the diplomatic corps were there, and friends and family were also there. So it's just a brief ceremony. So I thought, I found it. I thought, let's share that now so you can get a little feeling of how that was. Now, it's not like in England where the king comes and hits you over the head with a sword. It's a rather a nice and pleasant ceremony. We'll put it at that way. Okay, thank you.
we could well have the auditorium if everybody knows, but he said we settled for this. At this time, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce our Consul General, Margaret Hagar, who will present the award and tell you a little bit more about it. Margaret?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I begin with the ceremony for which we have all gathered here today, I would like to say a few words in connection with the tragic circumstances which just have occurred in Sweden. I do this not only as Sweden's official representatives in the Western United States, but also as one of the more than 8 million Swedes who are shocked and deeply sad about the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme. For many years, Olof Palme was the leader of the largest political party in Sweden, the Social Democrats. In that position, he has led the country for many years as Prime Minister. However, according to many, his greatest contribution was in international relations. Regardless of political viewpoint or color, all Swedes honor him for his burning interest and hard work for the world peace and for his contributions to the issue of Islam. He actively participated in working for a better world for us all to live in. I hope that you will all join me in the Swedish Consul here at Portland, Mr. Fogelquist, in a moment of silence to honor the memory of the Prime Minister of Sweden, Olof Palme. Let's proceed to the happy event today. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today as representative for His Majesty the King of Sweden and present the decoration, one of the most well-deserved decoration, I would say, to Ross Fogelquist. He is well known, as Leonard said, not only in this group, but in the whole city, in the whole state of Oregon. And many Americans, especially those with Scandinavian background, knows him. Ross is, in many ways, if you excuse me, Mr. Sweden of Oregon. He has shown many of us, and I think you all have seen his wonderful home, Fogelquist, where he has quite a museum of Swedish handicrafts and Swedish things from this time, but also from old times. He has, especially during the holidays, the Lucia, the Christmas, and the Midsummer, decorating his home in the most marvelous way, and by that he's also including a culture things for the Scandinavian and the Swedish heritage in this part. And Ross, with great care and love and good taste, you have continued to decorate your home and continue to invite not only me but all Scandinavians to see this wonderful museum, living museum, I would say, where we can see beautiful Swedish things. I think thanks to Ross, a new generation of Swedish Americans will be able to see the Swedish culture and see the Swedish things in the right surrounding, and they will keep the traditions from their parents and their grandparents much more intensively because of Ross. But Ross has not only worked with his home as a center for Swedish culture in this city. He has been active in many, many ways in a long list from Glenna before, but I'm not going to read all the things. I'll just mention a few. Ross has for many years worked in exchange of students in Scandinavia, especially in Sweden. And I have friends in Sweden who knows him very well just because children has been helped by Ross and have been very grateful because of Ross activities in this exchange of students. Then, of course, I have to mention the Scanfest, which was great success for the second year. Ross is a director and is one of the hardest working persons behind the success, which he has seen for 2 years now. The Swedish heritage is, of course, essential for everyone who has their roots in Sweden. And the Swedish government is, of course, very thankful for people who really spend most of their free time, as Ross is doing, to continue the traditions we have. With these words, I would like to introduce to you, Ross, I have to read this because it's a long name of the declaration. We will present the Order of Officer of the Royal Order of the Polish Star, first class. It is a decoration which is called Nordstjärneorden in Sweden, and it is a decoration which is given to Ross for his outstanding work to promote Swedish culture, maintain Swedish traditions among the Swedish community, and work with exchange programs for students from Scandinavia as well as Scanfest. So, may I formally hang this? This is the most tricky thing. I think you're in the best place.
The Honorable Consul of Oregon, Leonard Forsgren, Mrs. Forsgren, the Honorable Consul Emeritus of Oregon for Sweden, Sir Malcolm Frickman and his wife, Betty Frickman, members of the Consular Corps of Oregon, leaders of the Scandinavian community, administrators, colleagues, students of Mountain View High School, friends, family members, and members of the media. I would like to express my deep appreciation to His Majesty King Carl Gustaf and Queen Sylvia, the Swedish government, Consul General Margaret Hegard, the Swedish Consul General of Oregon, Leonard Forsgren, for this great honor. I would like to thank my friends, colleagues, and family members who have helped and supported me in our many Scandinavian endeavors. It has been through this great spirit of cooperation that we have been able to accomplish so much these past years in the Scandinavian community. We all have cherished memories of our heritage, which have inspired us to dedicate our time, money, and efforts for the promotion of all things Scandinavian. In their lives, my parents and grandparents instilled in me a great pride in our Swedish heritage. Preservation of our heritage is extremely important if we are not to avoid ethnic amnesia. We all must continue to strive for the preservation of our rich Scandinavian heritage. The challenge is set before us. We must all continue to support and promote and preserve our rich Scandinavian culture. To all those who have assembled here, I would like to express my deep and sincere appreciation for sharing one of the most significant moments in my life. Thank you.
All of you for being with us, and especially members of the Consular Corps here in the state of Oregon, and friends of Ross. And as I said before, if we had really broadcast this, we would have had the city auditorium, because Ross has so many friends, and so many people know his accomplishments on behalf of the Swedish society. We would like to have all of you stay, if you like, to join us with some refreshments and be able to meet Margareta and visit with Ross before you leave. So please stay and visit with Ross and the rest of us, and we hope you'll be able to stay with us for a while. Thank you very, very much for being with us.
Well, the new Scandinavian Cultural Center. It's being planned right now by a group of local Scandinavians, and it's due in large part to one man who spent a lifetime in what might be called cultural promotion. Many know this photo as Mr. Scandinavia, but his real name is Ross Fogelquist, and he's a teacher at Mountain View High School in Vancouver.
Han sudah 10% Ross Marta Muta.
We found Ross Fogelquist moderating a round of Jeopardy in Germany. He'll soon retire after 30 years of teaching mostly languages, but former students will tell you he imparts much more than how to speak in a foreign tongue.
And he teaches the love of the country, and that makes you actually want to learn more.
And if you wish to learn more about his beloved Sweden, you need to visit his home called Fogelbo in southwest Portland. It's like a Swedish museum.
Everybody who visits this place, that's the first comment they make, is this is a museum.
Right down to the brass candlestick holders that date back to the 1600s, or the Fogelquist family gallery, or the curator himself, knighted by King Carl, and only too willing to greet you just as the first Fogelquists in America might have done.
Well, nice to see you. And how are things with you today?
To prevent what he calls ethnic amnesia, Ross has opened Fogelbo over the years to hundreds of foreign exchange students, to any number of organizations at Christmas, to all Scandinavians and their friends for the Midsummer Fest. And so when a drive began for the Scandinavian Cultural Center in Portland, Ross Fogelquist donated his land and took up the cause.
Fulfilling a life dream of my family and also of a number of people in the Scandinavian community.
The $4.5 million center will be built here, adjacent to Fogelbo. It will house displays and exhibits and Scandinavian activities. Many of the artifacts will come from Ross's own collection, a part of which is now on display over at the Grand House in Vancouver. Ross says they help others remember.
Show people what the Scandinavian culture is like, something about the history of the Scandinavian Americans when they came to this country.
Americans who, like Ross Fogelquist, were hardy, hardworking, dedicated to their culture. Ross says in his own small way, through the Cultural Center, he can help perpetuate that heritage for future generations. It won't be easy, but just leave it to Mr. Scandinavia.
They're really going to do it. And so, there's no question about it.
So I just want to say one thing is we all hear that Ross is, Sir Ross Fogelquist. And it is because he was knighted. And we all kind of have an appreciation for him and who he is, because he's touched us all in some way. Many here have probably known Ross for most of their lives even. And to see the moment when you actually were knighted, and to see that was 40 years ago. And I'm sure to so many that felt like that could have been today. Such an honor to be celebrating you today here and be here with you, Ross. So So next we're going to have the president of Nordic Northwest, Brady Jensen, come up here and give a few words.
I'm Danish. It's almost a triggering event for me, but it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And first off, to welcome you to Nordic Northwest. So many of you helped build this place and help keep it vibrant at heart of our community. I was asked to talk about Ross's impact on the formation of Nordic Northwest, or what was originally the Scandinavian Heritage Foundation, which is a little curious because I wasn't there. I don't know a lot about it that day and that period. I met Ross in 2019 at auction, the Nordic Nights auction. It was in October that year, just before the world fell apart in 2020. I sat next to Martin Hull, who introduced me to Sir Ross. And it has been my pleasure since joining the board in 2021 to have the opportunity to get to know Ross, to understand the impact he has had on our community, and the pleasure of his company and his guidance. I seek him out for input, support, a little sense of tradition and history, and a bad joke or two every now and then into it. So I can't say a lot more that Petro or others have already said about Ross and the incredible generosity of spirit, of his time, of his talent, of his treasure that he has contributed to this community. What I will say is that that is the core and the essence of who and what Nordic Northwest is today. When we refresh our mission statement, which is to be the home for discovery and sharing of Nordic culture for the Pacific, for the enrichment and enjoyment for the Pacific Northwest community, we really leaned into two concepts, home and community. And I think that Ross embeds and embodies those characteristics that give the spirit and the heart and the warmth of Nordic Northwest. We are a home, and this is where we come home in our community. And Ross, you created and contributed and fostered that to this day. I thought it was interesting in 1986, the consul referred to the extensive collection of items at Fogelquist. And you stopped collecting then, right? There hasn't been anything new. That's not true. Last time I saw Ross, he was telling me about a new dollar horse. I kid. Ross actually has enough dollar horses. But we recently had two curators of museums of Norwegian and Swedish art assess Ross's collection. And they referred to it as the finest private collection of Scandinavian art and craft that they've seen. And I think and we are so thrilled to have that collection and Fogelbo and Ross as the integral heart of Nordic Northwest. I'm really pleased to be able to share this event with you and to call you one of my friends. And I think everybody in the room feels that same way. So happy birthday and congratulations on a fantastic life well lived.
Susan Schlesinger will come up here and give a little bit about the Dosa and also, yeah, the things of Scandinavian, or the Heritage Committee comes up too.
Thank you, Martin. I wanted not quite as tall as Petra. She's got that. I wanted to, first of all, thank New Sweden, the organization, for putting this wonderful event on. It's amazing, and it's just so wonderful to see so many people from all different parts of our community, young and old, and some older. And I want to thank New Sweden. Chrissy Gustafson, are you there? Chrissy sits way in the back of the room, even though she's got that beautiful dress on. So if we get a chance to thank her in person, I'd appreciate it. And her whole organization. I'm not used to following so many people raving about Ross because I've been asked today to talk to you because I lead the group of people who give the tours in his home, his beloved Fogelquist, and it is an honor to do that. I have a feeling that because I'm the second generation member of this organization, my mom is here tonight, Harvest, I have to acknowledge her. Sometimes I think it's your Swedish and Norwegian parents, but sometimes when we stand along each other, I'm wondering who's the younger of the two. So I've been around a long time. I've known Ross since the early 90s when my parents were involved in this organization. And I can tell you, I moved away for a while, but I was one of those people that shuffled my mom and dad to all the events that happened over on the grounds at Fogelquist. Before there was a Nordic Northwest. It was Scandinavian Heritage Foundation at the time, and it was a vibrant community. It still is as a Nordic Northwest community. And I'm really proud to be a part of that for so long. I have grandchildren, and they like to come to things like Sarah Winter's Festlaven. It's Danish. It's really fun. But it's really nice to be around that long, to get to see little kids enjoying it, and my mom, who, we won't show your age, but she always thought Ross was her little brother. And I think there's truth to this story. You saw the medallion getting pinned on Ross's vest or his jacket. And Mom specifically remembers sewing it onto this coat that he's wearing, and there were guidelines. You had to put it, I forget, she had to measure it exactly to where that could be. Is that right, Petra? Specifications. So she took that very seriously, and I think it's still on his jacket, so you must have done a good job, Mom. I'm also not used to standing alone because when we do these tours for Ross is there, Ross is the headliner, and the people who come to Fogelquist are always thrilled that one, is he still alive? And two, he lives here, and it's just so nice to see the delight on their faces. I used to be the one who took my mom and dad to the New Year's party and the open houses, and I loved all the backyard events. But I also thought I really would not like to clean this house. I'd look around and I'd see the stuff, and I have to say I saw it as stuff. And sure, once in a while something really caught my eye, and I would think, how old is that thing? And what was it used for? And then you start getting curious. And one of our favorite parts about the tours is seeing the excitement that others have for all things Ross Fogelquist and all things Ross has in that home and the home itself. And I started I just got back from Germany, so the German's coming up. I started slowly seeing things through other people's eyes and started really appreciating that maybe not everything in Ross Fogelquist's house is my cup of tea, especially the cleaning. We did that this year. And but to see it through other people's eyes, it's just refreshing, and it's just so supports that. And I feel that they're supporting it more and more all the time, as Ray mentioned, with the curators who came and evaluated the program. I'm not really good with notes, but I can tell you how I got involved with the Fogelville Heritage Committee. Judy Perkimaki, is she here tonight? I didn't see her. But Judy is a member of this organization, and she and Ross called me and said Nordic Northwest is going to start a new committee, and we'd like you to consider being on that committee. And I got to the meeting, and it said Susan Schlesinger, chair. And all of you were laughing because if you know Ross Fogelquist, that's what he does. And I said, well, I'm not going to chair this thing, but I'll help you. And the tours are something I really enjoy helping with. So Steve Benson's not here tonight. He's my co-chair. And I really do appreciate all the things that everyone has helped do. I wonder if it's possible that we could at least see the faces of the other docents in the room. I wanted to recognize Marion Thompson because Marion, are you there listening? Marion? Yeah. I wanted to recognize you because she instilled a lot of costuming in all of us. So if you see the docents, they're out in the room, just stand up for me or come forward briefly. Just walk by. But look at that. I can tell you that we developed, the tours have been going on a long time. There's something called official tours and unofficial tours. And Ross has been giving unofficial tours for so many years. But these are official tours, and they happen 4 times a year, and some specialty tours upon request. And we've had, in the last 5 years since I started counting, we've had about 2,500 guests come through Fogelville onto the Nordic Northwest campus, and we are the ambassadors. And I just want to thank all those people who stood up, because they show up each and every time, and there's a lot to be done for those tours because we really trained, learned, and we do that with Ross. So we always thank him, and I say that, I'm sure this organization could have, remember the little yellow house in the field down there? I'm sure he had a vision, and I'm sure this organization could have raised funds. We could have bought some land, we could have built a beautiful center like we have now. But I guarantee you, if it weren't for Ross Fogelquist, it would not be on Southwest Olson Road. And I really love being able to tell the people that, because this is prime real estate, and we're sitting on it, and we have one man to thank for that. Fogelville and Ross are exactly the same age. It dawned on me today that Fogelville was built in 1938 and Ross was born in 1938. And I've done these tours for years, and I didn't make that connection. And I think it's because it took 2 years to build Fogelville for a Swedish family, and the Fogelquist family bought it later when Ross was a teenager. And Ross is not finished growing, so I didn't make that connection. So Ross is always growing, and I just want to thank you. Another milestone was in 2020, when Fogelville was 80 years old. It was added into the Registry of National Historic Places. And I want Greg's not here tonight, Greg Jacob, Professor Jacob. I wanted to recognize him for having jumped through the hurdles and having that building recognized and added and receiving that distinction. He told me once it was more difficult than writing a dissertation. And I believe it because those of you who went through that with him know how long that took. So thank you, Ross, for having a dream of a cultural center. I know I speak on behalf of the entire Fogelville crew and all the people in this room and beyond that we are forever grateful for your generosity, and we are all proud to be a small part of your dream. Happy birthday.
slivers and sometimes big slivers of how Ross has impacted their lives. And Susan, I want to say thank you for really sharing that, because this is something that it takes an entire community to keep all of this going. Ross is at the epicenter, but there's so many individuals that have been a part of this for so many decades. And it's amazing how, you know, in the 80s, there were people who were full on supporting, and in the 90s, and then it switched over to new people, and then people disappeared, and then they come back. And, you know, one of the reasons they do come back is because of Ross. So, yeah, it's really amazing to kind of see and hear these individual stories that are being shared tonight. And so we have one more from one of his former students, Steve Becker. He will be coming up here, and he's going to share his own really, I think, amazing story.
I don't know if I can keep up with this. Everything that I hear about Ross, I don't know that I can do this. But before I talk about when I first met Ross and how Ross changed the direction of my life, I want to speculate a little bit about the beginning of Ross's career as a teacher at Evergreen High School in far remote Clark County in 1965. Let's think back to 1965 for a minute. 1965, if somebody in Portland wanted to call somebody in Vancouver, that was a long-distance phone call. It cost money. In 1965, if somebody in Vancouver wanted to go to Portland, they had to cross the interstate bridge and pay the bridge toll. There were all kinds of obstacles that were put up between people in Vancouver and people in Portland. Big cosmopolitan Portland, little sleepy Vancouver. What was it like for Ross Fogelquist in 1965 to start a career as a teacher at rural, remote, agricultural Evergreen High School in Clark County, Washington? Here's a Eurocentric, cosmopolitan, worldly guy. It's true. Paying that bridge toll every day and driving up to rural Clark County, where many of those kids milked cows and gathered eggs before they came to class in the morning. Wasn't that a clash? Wasn't that a big conflict? I mean, we live in an age of conflict, don't we? Are we supposed to have culture wars? And a couple of years ago, I asked Ross about this very question. And he said, not at all. I love those kids. They were so interested in what my experiences, so interested in what I wanted to teach. They were so interested in German. They were so interested in Europe. But what about this little community, Ross? I mean, Ross loved it. He knew everybody at Evergreen High School in 1965 and 66 and 67. He knew everybody. He formed relationships with all of his students, with all the teachers. Ross loved that school. And then I came along. So fast forward not quite 10 years to 1973, 74, 75, and the Evergreen School District is in the midst of a crisis. The 205 freeway is about to cross the Columbia River. In advance of that, fields and forests have been leveled, and in their place, thousands upon thousands of houses have been built, and the Evergreen School District is in no position to keep up with that. My part of that crisis was I was in junior high, Cascade Junior High School. We double shifted. What does double shifting mean? It's 2 schools, 1 building. I tried to explain that to my wife, Chris, the other day. So Chris asked me, how did that work out? I said, badly. It was not good. But Ross Fogelquist and the faculty at Evergreen High School had it a lot worse. So the big plan in the Evergreen School District was, okay, we're going to build a big, beautiful new high school. We're going to turn the old high school into a junior high school. Problem solved, right? Except they've got one problem. The new high school was not ready for the first day of school. The old high school was being remodeled. What do? You take an entire high school and you hold classes in school buses. Let me repeat that. Imagine instead of a classroom, instead of a desk, instead of audiovisual aids, Ross, am I correct, Ross? Is this roughly correct? That you taught in a school bus. And when the kids in your German class were done, they would go to their English class in the bus next door. And then when they were done with that, this was a crisis. Did you know how Ross responded to this crisis? One day he said, I have had enough. Students, follow me. And he walked into the building. He said, this is my classroom from now on. He drove a stake into the ground. There were no walls up yet. But Ross insisted that this is going to be my classroom from now on. And it was. So by the time I got to Evergreen High School about a year later, things had calmed down quite a bit, except they discovered one fatal error with this beautiful new building. And that fatal error was something called the open concept. And the open concept was this idea that we're going to minimize the number of walls in the building to increase the collaboration and sharing in school. Wouldn't that be nice? But in my experience in Ross's classroom was that only sharing that happened was noise and distractions. You could be in Ross Fogelquist's class doing your German vocabulary, but all you could hear was the French verb conjugation going on next door. Or the social studies class. Or somebody having a girlfriend crisis in the hallway. It was a terrible situation. And it felt, because there was this great big, huge new building, we as students felt unrooted and unnoticed. And as we all know, a lot of adolescents who feel unrooted and unnoticed do things to be noticed. We had a couple of jokers who thought it'd be really cute to take a long strip of masking tape and put it on a sprinkler, one of the fire suppression sprinklers in the hallway, and light it and then run away. Second or third time that happened, the fire department said, you folks are on your own. You're going to deal with these little heathens. We're not going to deal with this. It was not unusual at Evergreen High School in 1974 and 1975 to have the overhead sprinklers running as you were going between classes. And you'd have to get around this curtain of water and the puddle in the ground. It was not uncommon. But you know what was also going on at Evergreen High School? I met a student from Argentina named Sylvia. And I met a student from Sweden named Diana. And Diana was very interesting because they were actually from Czechoslovakia. They were refugees from the 1968 uprising. And they ended up in Switzerland. Over the years, I met Bengt Wallen from Stockholm. I met Knut from Oslo. I met Heike from Germany. I met Rico from Japan. I met Carlos from Costa Rica. What occurred to me was that despite the chaos of this high school, there was a global community right in front of me. And you know that every one of those kids, so interested in me, I was so interested in them. Every one of those students led right back to that guy right there, Ross Fogelquist. He didn't care about the chaos. He said, fine, get out of my way. I have a class to teach. I have lives to inspire. I have kids to engage with. And he did over and over and over, despite everything that was going on. And I got to tell you, this is what I really want you to know. That guy is a hustler. Ross hustled volunteers for fundraisers. Ross hustled adult chaperones for trips. Ross hustled host families for Swedes and Danes and Spaniards and Germans and French kids. Ross hustled constantly. And he also hustled people just like me. And Ross would buttonhole me in the hallway. Steve, you're perfect for international exchange. You need to go on exchange. You need to go live in another country for a whole year. You'll be a better person for it. Now, I'm not unique at all. I'm sure that Ross said that to everybody. But I listened. And in March of 1977, I left Evergreen High School, and I ended up at a high school. It was an AFS program. I was in Bangkok, Thailand. And this is hard to talk about, because Ross was right. It was the most important, scary, powerful, unforgettable year of my life. I met my wife there, this lady right here. She's from Barberton, Ohio. We were the two AFS students in southern Bangkok this year, and we got through it together. But you know, in the midst of that, being in Bangkok, Thailand, I really had this overwhelming sense of embarrassment and shame in my behavior at Evergreen High School. Because we had an AFS student from Cusco, Peru. And Fernay spoke Spanish as a second language. Her first language was Quechua. And I remember looking down my fat little American nose at her. How come you can't speak English? This is really appalling. You would come all this way. You can't speak English. I think the cosmos delivers lessons to us when we're ready for them. And here I am in Bangkok, Thailand, where I don't speak a word of the language. What a gift that was. And suddenly I had so much admiration for Fernay. For this kid from Cusco, Peru, to jump off this high dive board and hope that somebody would catch her. And at that moment, I think I understood better what Ross had been talking about all along. Being a global citizen, being an exchange student, being a citizen isn't about a language. It isn't about a costume. It isn't about a holiday. It's about a way of living, a way of thinking. It's about being endlessly curious. It's about being open-minded. It's about being able to laugh at yourself once in a while. It's about being compassionate. And it's about being absolutely relentless. You just don't give up. And number one, the most important thing that Ross taught all of us was this life existence that we all share is about relationships. We accomplish the most when we work together. That's all there is to it. I was lucky after Thailand, I stayed in touch with Ross. I was a student at the University of Washington. I had a little apartment up on Capitol Hill. Ross came to visit one weekend. I thought I was going to show him the sights, take him to the Space Needle, show him around. I said, no, Steve. You know how Ross gets that kind of impish grin on his face? You've all seen it, thank you, man. Steve, can you tell me, do you know where Mercer Island High School is? Mercer Island, Ross is on an island. It can't be that hard to find. Why? What do you need there? Thus, I was introduced to the Scandinavian antique show circuit. It's true. It's true. I don't know how many hours we spent there. But you know, being a fully initiated, humble, global citizen, I loved it. I enjoyed it very much. I mean, it was an introduction to a whole other way of living. It was fascinating. And I was very lucky. When Chris and I were raising our kids in Spokane, Ross came to visit us. He clearly wanted to have a relationship. He worked at having a relationship with me and my family. And I still feel so grateful for Ross. I remember him sitting, when our kids were little, he would sit and read story time books to them. Thank you, Ross. You know, as I think about Ross, does everybody here know the parable of the cave from Plato? You know the parable of the cave? So the rough outline of the parable of the cave is that there are these people who are chained in this cave. They're chained to the wall, and all they know of the outside world are these frightening shadows and reflections and images that are bouncing off the wall in front of them. And they conclude that the world outside our cave is frightening and terrible. And even once their shackles have been removed, they decide to stay in the cave because at least we feel safe here. And you know, I think Ross is that person who came into the cave and said, come with me. Come on, Steve. Come and see the world. It's so beautiful out here. You'll meet so many people. You'll learn so many things. It's such a glorious, glorious place. Ross urged us to come out of the cave, see the world. Yes, School was important. He was a teacher. But what Ross recognized was that school was the starting place, not the destination. It was the place from which we were to launch ourselves into the world. And the farther we did it, the more gratified and the more successful we would be. So when I think about Ross Fogelquist, I think about this guy who's open-minded and endlessly curious. You know, this Scandinavian identity that he is in, that I've been hearing about since 1973. But because of his confidence in his cultural identity, it empowers him to ask me about mine, or a student from Japan about hers, or a student from France about his. His confidence in his cultural identity empowers him to reach out to other people. So Ross, I was fortunate you were my teacher. I'm really lucky you were my mentor. And I'm even happier you're my friend. Thank you.
I think we all know the impact Ross has on his students. I know a few who I met just through the Nordic community that I then found out they actually were part of the Nordic community because they had Ross as their teacher. It was not because they had some, direct connection. It was because of Ross. And so, Steve, thank you so much for those wonderful words to really share that connection and how So we're going to have a slideshow now of Ross through the years. So I think that's all I know. So I'll just kind of pass it on. Yeah, we'll now pay attention here and okay, and this might be, we're going to switch a little bit over here. So it might be if you need to go grab something, you can go grab something as well. And during this time, because we have a little bit of, we're going to switch. I think we used to have a projector that would run things, where we switch things over here. So I will go back to, we might be starting here, but Ross, one of those things that when I mentioned earlier, my parents had said, don't get distracted by all the Swedish activities when you start your actual job at Intel. Now that you finally have a career, quote unquote, at 32. I'd done anything but prior to then. But what was great was Ross had this small group called Swedish Roots in Oregon. And I realized this is something, I moved from Chicago to Oregon not knowing there was much of a Scandinavian community here. And one of the wonderful things was there was such a rich community, and Ross was really curating through so many different ways that, I just want to say, he was such a welcoming person to just become a part of this new community that I didn't know. And so just thank you, Ross, for all of the moments that I've shared with you. So thank you. Now we're going to have Sir Ross Fogelquist from Rising Times of Oregon. while we watch this, there will be some cake being passed around, and once this is over, we will then sing Happy Birthday, Hållnära in Swedish as well. So just be ready, the cake is coming by shortly.
skålar för våra vänner och skålar för dem vi känner och de som vi inte känner, de skålar vi för.
think the stories that have been shared tonight have obviously shown that Ross has lived a life. And yeah, it was absolutely wonderful to get to see all those faces. So I hope everyone has some cake. I want to take this moment real quickly to thank the volunteers who are serving us, taking care of us tirelessly all around us. So give a round of applause to all the volunteers. And we'll also give a big thanks to Nordic Northwest, who, it's an amazing place and an amazing organization providing so much for us and the Scandinavian community. And also then, as Susan mentioned earlier, to New Sweden, we have Paula and Christy who have been working. Christy, you are just running things in such a way that I'm just so impressed all the time. Give a huge round of applause for them. So right now we are going to sing Happy Birthday to the man of honor. We are going to sing it both in Swedish and in English. And so we'll have the Swedes who want to come up and sing Nordstjärneorden. There are a few, and we can have some more come on up. The more the merrier. Yeah, so okay. And we're going to sing first that in Swedish, and then we will do a full happy birthday with everyone. So we have more than a few Swedes here. Okay, so ja, ska vi har en okay. Yeah, okay. So because I don't know how to sing in like a choir things, I don't know how to get the right tone. So they're gonna get the tone and then we're gonna follow suit. So okay, Nick and Charles. Okay. As we eat our cake, we're just about to wrap up the evening. We'll have served shortly give some closing remarks. So just stay tuned. He's going to have some cake first, and then he'll be up there. And I guess there is coffee at the back, as well as, the bar is still open, and there's some lingonberry drinks as well. So if you need any of that, please go ahead and grab that. So Ross is going to come up now and give us his closing remarks for this absolutely wonderful evening celebrating him. So I will give him the microphone.
The evening wouldn't be complete unless I tell one of my Swedish jokes. And we Swedes like to kind of poke fun at each other. So, it was in Minnesota. You know there are lots of seeds in Minnesota. And it was a hot, humid Sunday. And Oh, they came out of the church with two black eyes. And Stan said, oh, you look like you've been in a ballroom brawl. I said, how did you get two eyes into the church? Oh, he said, well, it meant this way. It was so hot in there. And the minister said, we are going to sing out of the hymnal, open up the window wide and let out sin. And so, okay. So, and that is on hymn number, page number 33rd. 33rd, okay. The Swedes can't say some. So they stood up and they were singing. And Mrs. Svensson was standing in front. And he noticed it was so hot that her dress was caught in the crack of her behind. He said, oh my goodness, that poor lady. I think so. I'll just reach over there and just pull it right out. Oh, she got mad and she turned around, slugged me in the right eye. Oh my gosh, she said, I better put it back in. So and he turned around, hit me in the other eye. He just can't bend. The trouble with the Justin when we come over or something. Well, I had prepared a dissertation about preserving our cultural heritage against ethnic amnesia. And this has been a theme of mine for 50 years. And the term ethnic amnesia was initiated by our wonderful professor, Dr. Bernard Petty. Many of you knew him. It's an outstanding lecturer and teacher and man of many talents, he and his wife. So we often talked about ethnic amnesia. And so what is ethnic amnesia? And so we look at the immigrant story in America. And the first generation arrives, and so they gather together at different organizations and lodges and choirs, and music groups, and try to keep the heritage going into the next generation. Well, so the second generation, generally, the children do not marry people in their own ethnic group. They'll marry Italian, German, French, okay. So then that's kind of, well, how's that going to work out? So it depends, actually. It's kind of interesting. The women seem to be, generally speaking, more aggressive in preserving the heritage and passing it on to the next generation. So if there's a strong person who's really enthusiastic and excited about the heritage, they'll pass it on to the next generation. Now, some people go, so this interesting thing, I've heard this story a million times. Oh, my parents didn't want to teach me the language or much about the culture. They wanted to speak good Americans. So when you lose the language, you lose a lot of the culture and the heritage. So then the second generation, they have children in the third generation. Well, okay, it's kind of diluted then. Oh, yeah, maybe one of the grandmothers or grandfathers worked on preserving or passing that heritage on to the next generation. Maybe not. There's all kinds of competition for people's time, particularly in a modern contemporary society. So that becomes very diluted. And I hear this story. I meet hundreds of people now in the last year coming to look at Ola Bola, and they come to Ola. And as a teacher, I just observe these comments that people make. And so, my Swedish grandmother used to make peppercorn at Christmas. Now, that's about all I remember. Christmas, there's a little blink of memory there in the third and fourth generation. Generally speaking, there are, of course, lots of exceptions where people really devoted a lot of time and attention to was passing on whatever heritage it could be, German, French. So by the fourth generation, it's quite diluted. And I see that with many people coming, talking to them. Interestingly, come in the house and they say, oh, I remember Grandma used to have this beautiful thing. Oh, yes, and the grandma. I said, well, what happened to Grandma's thing? Well, we weren't interested when we were young. And I don't know what happened. I guess they sold it at a garage sale or gave it to Goodwill. Gosh, I wish I had that now. Well, I was really interested then. Oh, my. So, how do we preserve the heritage and the culture? And that's a $64,000 question when you live in a country where it's a melting pot of all kinds of cultures and heritages. So it's an ongoing battle, I tell you, and I'm trying to promote culture and heritage, particularly in the German culture and language. And I became very immersed with the German culture and heritage when I was in Vienna studying my junior year in college. So it's interesting, looking back 88 years, you see the cycles of life. And so we look and we see that there is some hope. Because there's hope because we have this place here. And we have people who were farsighted, who were dedicated, who worked generation. I see many of you sitting here who made this possible, made my dream and the dreams that we had 40 years ago about a Scandinavian center possible. It wasn't just my efforts, it was a combined effort of many people, many hardworking people. I could go around the room here and mention so many people who made this possible. So I'm very indebted to all of you who come here and have been a part of my life. It's been a life of a lot of adventures and lots of cultural contacts. And I love sharing. Sharing is a very important part of my faith and culture. And so I was blessed that my folks bought this beautiful place and the heritage and the culture fit well with the house. So I want to just express my deep gratitude for all of you who've been a part of my life, and it's greatly enriched my life through these many, many years. So I wanted, particularly in closing, say that I greatly appreciate all the wonderful comments and kind words and your patience, listening to all the idiosyncrasies and the humor of my life story. So, New Sweden Cultural Heritage Society, who hosted this event, I want to take special recognition for those people who worked so hard. The staff and board at New Sweden, particularly Christy and Paula and many others, the people who performed. It was a memorable evening, and I will always cherish this evening as a very special event in my life, and I always cherish all of you for being a part of my life. So as we sing in Swedish, tusen tack, many thanks. Thank you for coming.
be sure to tip the bartenders if you want, and say thank you to volunteers who walk by them.